네, 안녕하세요. 아까 여기 캐나다 시간으로는 아침에 내일 거 낭독을 예술 못해가지고 낭독을 해보도록 하겠습니다. Day 34인데요. 제가 Day 34로 했는지 모르겠네요. 볼까요? 33라고 그랬네요. 34 확인. 이게 고치면 중간에 되는지 모르겠어요. 확인을 해보고요. 잘 나오는지. 34 맞죠? Day 34. 금요일 거 맞습니다. 라이브 나가고 있고요. 네, 잘 되고 있습니다. 그러면 제가 이제 낭독을 해보도록 할게요. Day 34 여기부터 되겠습니다. 네, 읽어볼게요. Also, she got to stay home from school whenever she was sick. So I had thought of her as lucky. But today she seemed worse than usual. My mother made me take Sam a couple of doors down to watch TV at the Muranoto's apartment. They were the only ones in the apartment with a TV. Television was such a treat. Fortunately, the Muranotos liked the Twilight Zone, so we got to watch that every week with them. Now we let ourselves in and sat on the couch with Mrs. Muranoto, who was watching the news. She loved the news because her husband had a low, clear voice, and she said that if he were Hakujin White, he could work as a newsman on TV. He wasn't home now. He was working with my father at the hatchery. Sometimes I thought he made his voice sound lower than it was naturally. He liked to sit alone in the kitchen reading the newspaper out loud as if he were a newsman. "Where's Lynn?" asked Mrs. Muramoto. She was a quiet woman who worked for a tailor. "She's tired again," I said. I always told people she was tired, not sick. We watched the news and a couple of game shows, and then I took Sammy back home. My parents were in the bathroom with Lynn, so I filled the bath for Sam and read to him while he sat in the bathtub. That was his favorite thing, getting ready in the bathtub. After his bath, I got his pajamas for him and made up the couch for him to sleep on. Ordinarily, I didn't like to work around the house, but taking care of Sam was the exception. Unfortunately, if Sam was sleeping on the couch, that would leave the living room floor for me. I didn't see why we could sleep in our regular beds. If Lynn was contagious, we would get sick just from living in the same apartment. Her germs were probably all over the place by now. I took a bath in Sam's old water and laid out some blankets on the living room floor. When I was a little girl, sleeping on the floor always seemed like a treat. We used to beg our mother to let us sleep on the floor. It was like camping, but now that I was older, the floor felt hard. In a few minutes, my mother came in looking annoyed. I knew it was because I hadn't wiped the ring around the bathtub, but I didn't say anything. I was in a bad mood because the floor was hard. My mother seemed exasperated. She was kind of crazy about cleanliness. "How many times do I have to tell you?" she said. My father came up behind her. Even he seemed annoyed with me, and he almost never got annoyed. "Katie," he said, "how many times does your mother have to tell you to wipe the ring in the bathtub?" "I don't see why I have to sleep on the floor," I said. My father's face darkened. I felt a little scared. He never got truly mad at us, ever. That was our mother's job. My mother looked as if she was going to cry, but I was famous for being hard-headed. Maybe it was because Lynn had always let me have my way. So now I pulled the covers over my head. I was shocked when my mother pulled the covers off and yanked me up by the arm. My father rested his hand on her to restrain her. She started crying. I didn't know what was going on. It was just a bathtub ring. 네, 여기까지 내일 읽을 부분, 금요일 읽을 부분을 읽어봤습니다. 이야기가 심각해지는 것 같아요. 언니가 많이 아픈 상황인 것 같습니다. bathtub ring 이라는 거가 뭔가 한번 찾아보고 싶어지는데요. 여기 bathtub ring이 그 아마 bathtub 주변에 있는 그 부분을 말하는 걸까요? bathtub ring. 나 오늘 찾아볼게요. bathtub ring. image. ring이라고 하네요. 이거를 신기하네요. 퍼스키. 네. 자, 그러면은 오늘은 여기까지 하고요. 내일 또 만나서 같이 이야기 해보면 좋을 것 같습니다. 네, 여러분 안녕.